Oh, it's a cold one. Welcome to my last Walkie Talkie of the year. Oh, and it's definitely a cold one. So, now, as I say, it's the last one of the year. As you can see, it's quite frozen on the ground and all around. So it's not going to be a long walkie-talkie today, pigeon. But I just wanted to get this last one in for the year. There won't be one tomorrow, as well, it's New Year's Day, so it'll be family time again. Got a squirrel there. Oh, I thought he was lining up to charge down the fence, but no. Yeah, it's not going to be a long one. And I say there won't be one tomorrow. So we're signing off the year. We'll chat about a few things when we get to the park, but like I say, not a long one today. In fact, I mean, there was umming and ahhing really whether I would actually be doing a walkie-talkie today. But like I say, because it's New Year's Eve, it's going to be the last one of 2025. Before we kick on into next year, and whatever that brings. In the gaming space, will we actually get some really good games next year? I hope so. It would be nice, definitely. More really good games. That's the order of the day. That's what we want. Oh, but we'll see. GTA 6 is supposed to arrive next year. Hopefully that'll live up to expectations. Oh yeah. Quiet. Hope it stays that way in the park. Yesterday, God, it was getting busy in there. And I think because it's like still the Christmas holiday period, especially with kids being off school over Christmas, getting new presents, like if they've got bikes and stuff like that, they'll be out over the Christmas period while they're off school, going to the parks and riding. Remember, that's what I did. I remember getting my BMX at Christmas. God, I was never in. Never in. I absolutely love that bike. As I said before in a previous video, it was, to this day, remains my favourite bike I've ever had. It looked the business. It was a great bike to ride. Oh, my thumbs are freezing. So yeah, we'll just do the general chat, say our goodbyes to 2025 and hellos to 2026. We'll see what it brings on the gaming front. So yeah. Oh. Okie dokie. Strange sounding. Bird. Is it bird or is it squirrel? Anyway, I will see you all in the park. Right. Here we are in the park. And it's quite quiet. I guess the biting cold weather is keeping people at bay for now. It won't last. You see some people over there. So yeah, end of this year, beginning of next up, there's more people coming in. Open my mouth too soon. Yeah, end of the year. You get all of these channels now be doing the year in review and what have you. The top 10 lists for 2025 or whatever. I'm going to say on the AAA gaming front, it wasn't a vintage year by any stretch of the imagination, was it? That's not to say there wasn't great games. In the indie space there always is. Always good stuff to look out for, but yeah. That'd be my takeaway from this year. Cancelled games and people being laid off in the AAA space. But we nevertheless got some really good games. But next year promises to be better. And we hope it is. I always hope it is. But we'll see. I think for me, how was that? I think for me it was, this year is just one of them where I think because there was not much like concrete going on, there's a lot of sort of speculative stuff coming out there, filling in the gaps. And as we all know, there's sort of the more negative nature of things tend to get more attention, so the speculation always seems to go to the side of negativity. So just need to be mindful of that we don't have any concrete facts about stuff. It's often people thinking or drawing lines, seeing where their conclusions go to. Quite often the speculation is just that, and it ends up being completely wrong. It'd be nice if that was the case, because no one wants to see the games industry start to collapse. It costs a lot of jobs. But you know, we all want there to be loads of great games, great systems to play these games on, and the masses being able to enjoy that. That's the ideal thing. I think, looking back, you know, back in, like I have already mentioned, the great stuff that Sir Clive Sinclair did was, his focus was to bring computers to the masses, you know, and he did that. I think it's fair to say that the success of the Spectrum, especially here in the UK, did drive the prices down of other systems. You know, the C64 had to lower its price, had to come down, had to be as competitive as it could. Otherwise, it wasn't going to sell. And that had a knock-on effect. You know, other computer systems had to follow suit. You know, Amstrad, they had to follow suit. Otherwise, no one was going to buy them. I must say, I have been tempted to get the retro games, the Spectrum, just basically to go back and experience something that I never had as a kid. I'd say I did play on it. You know, a few of my friends had them, and I had them, and I played on them. But you know, it's fair to say that without actually owning one myself, it's only limited to those little snippets. But I enjoyed playing on it, I've got to say. I enjoyed playing on it, and it was great fun. It was great fun. But you know, I am tempted by that. I have the C64 Mini and the A500 Mini, and these scratch that retro itch quite well. They do the job. And I say I do like the look. I like the idea of the Spectrum Mini. I have to have a look, see what I can do in the new year. But my CD, my little mini hi-fi thing arrived, my Panasonic one. Got that put in situ and set up yesterday, and it's just great. I love it. Good sound, good quality sound. Yeah, good quality sound on it. Nice, lots of connectivity options for something that's so small. It's very impressive. There's a audio line in, so you could run audio from like your TV or any other device. USB connectivity, which is nice. Bluetooth. I actually was listening to an audio book from Audible on my Samsung tablet and Bluetoothed it to the hi-fi, and it sounded great. And of course CDs which was actually the main reason I got it. And yeah, really good. It's got a digital radio tuner in it. I'm very, very happy. Very happy with it. So, and it fits perfectly where I needed it to go. So, yeah, very, very happy. I say the sound's good as well. For its size, it's actually very good sound. The technology in speakers these days has improved significantly. It really has, compared to what it was sort of back in the day when you needed like giant speakers to get good sound. With the modern tech, you can get really good sound now out of relatively small speakers, which reduces the footprint of these things considerably. So yeah, really, really happy with that. It fixes problems going forward. So yeah. You know, one of my abiding memories of New Year, games related, was the year I got my Commodore 64C to replace my bread bin C64. That was the one that I had to take back to the computer place, with my dad taking the TV with me back to the place called Court Grant. Because at the time we needed to adjust the tuner on the back of the computer to get it to line up, align with that TV and work with that TV. And yeah, I spent the New Year's Eve playing The Great Escape on the C64. That was a great game, you know. I remember it being tough as old boots, but I really enjoyed it. I love the depth that it had. You know, you sort of having to do all of these tasks to avoid the POW camp officers and sort of plan your escape and stuff. And the thing was, on the C64, like, the graphics were actually very similar to that of the Spectrum. They were quite monochromatic in the most part. But you know what? It didn't matter. It worked really well. And it still looked good despite that. But yeah, I remember sitting there in the bedroom in the dark playing it. And the next thing I know, I started playing it, and it was like, next thing I know, it was New Year. And yeah, it was a good memory. Good memory. I had a lot of fun. Playing on that. That came as the Hollywood bundle, one I was telling you about. That you had Miami Vice and Platoon and Rambo and that. Could never get to grips with Miami Vice. I never figure it out. I liked it, but I could never really figure out what I was supposed to do at times. I mean, I just like driving around and stuff, and then you would, I guess you'd have to get out and do things. But I just remember it having a great soundtrack from the TV show. It was really good soundtrack. And I quite like the graphics as well. I think it got a bit of criticism at the time, but no, I liked it. But that was, playing the stuff out of that bundle was mostly what I was playing that Christmas. I think I spent most of the time playing either The Great Escape or Platoon, because I'd already had Rambo. I'd had that for quite a few years. Had that from when I first got the C64. It was one of the games I got with it. So yeah, I was obviously chiefly playing the other. I did play it a bit, to make sure it loaded and everything, but yeah, that Christmas I was mostly playing the other stuff. So what will I be playing today? I don't know. I'm not decided yet. I haven't figured it out. Do you know, I got the Tomb Raider 1 to 6 collection. I remember getting Tomb Raider 1, 2, 3. I used to get them all for Christmas, actually. Yeah, I'm trying to think, yeah. It's Revelation. I'm trying to think of one I didn't. It would probably be one of the Crystal Dynamics ones. Probably the Tomb Raider remake on the 360. But the others I did. I love them games, they're great. I tell you what though, I remember Tomb Raider 3. Good God, that was a jump up in difficulty level from the previous two. I mean, Tomb Raider 2 had some tough bits in it, but bloody hell. Right from the offset in Tomb Raider 3, that game was all about punishing you. Like insta-death traps. I remember you sort of slide down this hill and you had to time, right at the very beginning, you had to time these jumps, otherwise you ended up getting impaled on spikes. And I was sat there like, wow. Like the other games kind of eased you in, but not 3. Bloody hell. That was like abuse. And then Angel of Darkness, talking of abuse. Mother of God. I mean, I have to tell a funny story about that. It wasn't funny at the time. So, I waited ages for that on the PS2. I love my Tomb Raider games. Eventually it come out. And I think Game broke the release day. Or somebody else broke the release day and then Game followed suit. Game being the UK equivalent of GameStop. So I got it. It was about a week earlier, something daft like that. It'd been delayed. And I think people were just generally fed up of waiting for it. So it ended up, the release date got bust anyway. I remember getting it home and they switched from the D-pad controls in that game. They switched from that to analog. Now, it wasn't analog in the style of what it should have been. Like your dual analog controls today. No, it was some weird hybrid. And oh God, it was hard to control Laura. Which in a game that often required pixel perfect platform jumping, fighting a control system is not the best thing. It's not the way. But oh my God, I remember that. I was absolutely ready to have a conniption with this. I was really annoyed and, absolutely pissed off. I remember getting quite far. Well, I say far. There was a part of the game that was really tough, and you had to jump on these columns over this fire pit or magma pit or whatever it was. Had to do that. Yeah. So jumping on these columns over this lava pit, and it took me ages to be able to do it because of the control system being what it was. I finally managed to be able to do it, and then got past it, carried on a bit, saved the game, and then there was another part where you had to descend from this hole in the ceiling carefully, otherwise you'd fall to your death. So I'd saved just before that bit, and of course fighting these controls, I was falling quite frequently, and I was having to load, fall, die, load. And I can't remember now how the load and save was done. I think it all ran from the same menu and from the same option in the menu. And at one point, mid-fall, I'd started to fall, and I just thought, sod this, I'm gonna load. And of course I was losing my temper at the time, and I was bashing the buttons, and it was like, game saved. And I was like, what? Oh. Now, in most games in that situation, or in any situation with that, it would save at a certain point.
Mary was managing yesterday.
Previous Tomb Raider games had a save point. They weren't just saving, at that particular place you were. That was on the PC. On console versions, there was like a checkpoint that it would save back to. And I should have known at this point, playing the game, that wasn't the case with this. So I had saved exactly the wrong spot. It had saved mid-fall. So every time I went to load, I was loading mid-fall and dying. I just spent hours getting past a certain part of the game. And due to the nature of the game itself, I had to restart the whole game. And I lost my shit. And I remember taking the game out of the PS2 and winging it across the room. Needless to say, 9 times out of 10 wouldn't have been an issue, but somehow I'd managed to scratch the disc. This has been like the exception. As anybody knows, I really look after my stuff. I don't beat it up. I don't bash my games. I look after them. This was one exception, and the one time I did it with a disc as an adult, not as a kid. Well, I was in my 20s. Still an adult though. I mean, the last time I ever launch something was when I was a kid, in a sort of childish temper tantrum. And one time I did it, I scratched the disc, and I was like, oh great, it wouldn't load. Which I thought, right, well, that's my own fault. But back then, I don't know whether you can still do it these days, if you sent the disc back to the publisher, in this case it was IDOS, Crystal Dynamics were the developer, but IDOS was the publisher, they would give you a new disc for 10 quid. But they didn't just send the disc, they sent the whole game. Yeah, they said, new instruction manual, game, all of that. Sent it all back to me, brand new. Needless to say, I didn't wing it after that. I just said it got scratched in my console, which actually, because I sort of hit the eject button quite forcibly to get it out of the console, it could well have slipped off the spindle as it was coming out. I don't know. I didn't look at the disc before I launched it. But yeah, that was the only time Angel of Darkness has that distinction of making me launch something across the room while I wasn't being a kid. Well, while I wasn't a kid, I was acting childish. No, wasn't a kid. Lesson learned. Discs treated with kid gloves after that, no matter how much I was raging. So yeah, a little funny story with Tomb Raider Angel of Darkness there. The funny thing was, actually, I didn't really play it that much because I had to start again. I didn't really play, didn't finish it. At that point, it was the only Tomb Raider game that I hadn't finished, and it still remains that way to this day. So at some point, I am going to finish it. Maybe I'll do a playthrough of that. I don't know. I might get triggered. How are we doing? I think we'll come up to calling it. It's getting quite busy in here, me and my big mouth, saying it was quiet. Now everybody's descended on the place, so before it becomes an absolute edit fest. I say it was going to be a shorter one today. But I wanted to get a walk done, get back home, get this edited and uploaded, and crack on with the rest of the day. So, to finish up, signing out from 2025, it's been a year that I've done more YouTubing this year, I think, than I have done in the entirety. Well, not in the entirety, but to put more videos and done more stuff this year than I have done for many a year on this channel, on YouTube. And I've enjoyed it. I've enjoyed the people commenting on my videos. It's nice to have that interaction. It can be difficult to find topics, but we'll do it. We'll do it into next year. We'll figure it out. As I say, my plan is to talk more about games I'm playing, and then, as and when topics pop up in the games industry to chat about, is to talk about them, just give my opinion on what I think going forward. But I don't want to get into a situation where I'm like, there's nothing going on, so I'm not going to talk about anything. That's why I want to talk about games and playing, because that's something that I do. And that's going to interest some people, and then other times it's not. And that's just the nature of running a channel like I run. I will intersperse that with any TV shows I've watched, movies I've watched, some from the past. I will be at some point talking about the Indiana Jones series, or as I like to call it, the Indiana Jones trilogy, because that's how it should have been left, in my view. A little spoiler. But yeah, I know at some point I will do a Walkie Talkie and chat about that. I've covered Star Wars, I've covered that. So yeah, I do have plans, obviously, as I've said before, gameplay wise. Get the rest of the Doom stuff done. Doom 2016, Doom Eternal and its DLC, and then Doom the Dark Ages, which will be a laugh. I'll get them played through. And once I've done that, then I do intend to do other stuff. Not maybe so much playthroughs, but just some occasional videos. We'll say occasional. It'll be regular, but there'll be different games. I think playthroughs are a tough thing to commit to, especially with more modern games, because they do tend to take longer to play through. But we'll see if something does come along and grab my attention. We'll see. So all that's left for me is to call it there. Wish you all a happy new year. Hope you have a really good year coming, and have a good time. If you're doing anything tonight, enjoy it, be safe, and yeah, I'll see you all next year. So thank you for watching.